As stated in the brief I submitted, the state's primary concern in terms of broadcasting video of this hearing or these preliminary hearings on television or the internet, live streaming it on the internet, is that the ease of access to a pretrial evidentiary hearing in a case with such notoriety will cause damage to a jury pool in terms of bias. The state does not believe this is simply a hypothetical issue. The level of public interest in this case is so high that the probability that potential jurors, whatever the venue may end up being, will not be exposed to a production of evidence is unlikely. The state strongly maintains that said exposure to the production of evidence in a courtroom setting not only will create bias in potential jurors, but also the fact that it creates the appearance and possibility of bias is sufficient for this court to consider not allowing video cameras in the courtroom. The state is mindful of the effects of COVID-19 and the difficulties it raises for all the parties involved. We understand the difficulties it raises for the media in terms of being personally present. However, the public's right to know what happens in this hearing, which is important, and the state absolutely believes in that right, but it is satisfied by the public and the media's access to court transcripts and audio of the preliminary hearing. It's not necessary to live stream and broadcast video of the preliminary hearing when doing so creates such a high probability of affecting future jurors. And so with that, Your Honor, the state would again renew its request that the court not allow video cameras in the courtroom for these preliminary hearings.
Seems to be centered around avoiding any sort of public display of any of these proceedings, and I appreciate that. My concern is that in all of the historical documents going back to our founding fathers, the very basis of a trial was that it was going to be a public trial, and that the public had a right to see and view the proceedings. We've had a tremendous amount of media coverage. I've pointed out that even at the Madison County Courthouse, they've wrapped blue ribbons around the poles around the courthouse and at the prosecutor's office. And that had been there up until late last week.
I think you could sum it up with the statement of the cat's out of the bag. I think the attention that this case has received as far as media attention, analysis of certain evidence that has been placed in the attention of the media has already occurred. I think the argument to not allow this to be televised is more accurately applied to how can it affect at this point in time with a reservation to challenge venue, how can it affect the citizens of Fremont County? I don't think there's any difference on whether it's televised or not, or how it's going to affect the citizens of Fremont County.
Your Honor, I'll just briefly summarize it by saying that we believe that the video feed is really the very appropriate solution, balancing all the factors in this case. It's the least intrusive method. It is a way to provide accurate information. And as I cited in the brief, publicity itself is not a bad thing. In fact, it's a good thing. The concern is bias arising from inaccurate information. And there is no better way to make sure that accurate information is provided.
So will the sun shine in Idaho? The answer is yes. And everyone is smiling, right? Chanley, the judge, and I was surprised here, prosecutors going for no cameras, just like in the George Floyd case, and the defense saying yes to cameras, just like in that case as well. We're in bizarro world now, in this COVID world we live in. But Chanley, cameras are in. Court TV will be the feed that the rest of the world will see, and the rest of the media will use, will be what they call the pool camera. Chanley, what are they going to see? What's coming up? Get the folks at home up to speed as to what this was all about today.
The huge preliminary hearing. First, Chad Daybell, who faces 2 felony conspiracy counts, conspiracy to commit destruction, alteration of evidence. That begins next Monday, August the 3rd. His preliminary hearing is scheduled the 3rd and the 4th. That's when the prosecution will outline the evidence it has against Chad Daybell to support those charges. The standard being probable cause standard, but it's huge to have cameras in there to see everyone, to see exactly what the prosecution has that we don't already know. We have this lengthy affidavit, but will we learn more evidence against Chad Daybell? That's next Monday and Tuesday. And of course, it also applies to Lori Vallow, the judge saying her last name now, Daybell, Lori Daybell today. Her preliminary hearing August 10th and 11th. She will again, it will be for the felony counts of conspiracy to commit destruction of evidence, facing in Fremont County. She's being held in Madison County with those charges. But that's happening. That's what this fight was all about, Vinny, whether or not the public will be able to see the live stream of these proceedings starting next Monday.
All right, Ashley Banfield, and I don't know if we can get that video back up of Chad Daybell today in court, but I was looking really closely. I mean, I was like, I didn't see any egg on his face. Did you?
You are so fixated on him. I don't know what your deal is, Vinny. But I got to say this. I mean, I understood why the prosecutors were not interested in having the rest of us peering into these images. It's expensive. If you got to go through the number of people that they had to, and here we go, Vinny, I'm going to do it again. The Casey Anthony trial. It took months and months and months to pick a jury in that case, and they had to go from county to county. They had to actually truck them in because it was such an overexposed case. And perhaps that's why Rob Wood is saying we just don't need this aggravation of poisoning a jury pool to a whole bunch of media coverage. Okay, so that aside, then there's the issue of what about an appeal? What about if we get a conviction and then they come back at us at some point and say, this was a poisoned process from the get-go. It was a circus. It was all over the press. There were all these lies. And then we found out later that jurors were reading all of that press. So I understand when there's something as high profile or as, let's just be frank, crazy as the facts in this case. But then on the other hand, man, it is an awfully secretive and strange society that these people come from, this whole cultist movement. And I think more sunshine is needed at this point to try to get to the bottom of really the facts in this case.
Yeah, you know, every trial is a public trial, and ultimately our system rests, Julie Grant, on the trust that the public has in what's happening. And the best way to trust it is to see it and hear it for yourself. So when you get the reports of what the conclusion is, which is the verdict, we get verdicts at the end of trials, and sometimes people are happy, sometimes they're upset, sometimes they understand it, sometimes they don't. But the people who watch court TV generally get it. They understand what happened.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Vinny. And I really appreciated the arguments made by Chad Daybell's attorney. I mean, just saying that when we think of justice in our system that we have here in America, these are public courtrooms. They're not private courtrooms. And oftentimes you'll hear judges say, it's not my courtroom, it's the courtroom of the people. Because that's really who it belongs to. Our taxpayers pay dollars so that trials can go on and every defendant can receive a fair one. And so this is quite a head scratcher that here you have the prosecutors saying we don't want the cameras in, and you have the defense attorneys saying, yep, our clients want them. Yep, we're typically, as you said, Vinny, it's the opposite. I love it. Last time we were talking about the George Floyd case, you used the term opposite land. I love that because normally we think of defense attorneys wanting to protect their clients' rights and making sure everything stays quiet. Let's keep it out of public view. And here they're saying, no, show it, please. And the prosecutors are saying, wait, let's not. It might affect our ability to pick a jury. It's a head scratcher, as is the fact that the prosecutors have not joined these two. They're co-conspirators. They're facing the same charges. They've alleged to have acted together. I have no idea why there are two separate hearings coming up for these two, Vinny.
Yeah, I was surprised by that too. Ted, I'm going to go back to my first question on you because, you know, I was looking, Chad Daybell predicted, you know, last week was it. And then he shows up in court and everything's the same. And he did he look embarrassed to you?
No, he looked the same. You wonder what's going on in his head. Yeah, because now we're a week after the end of the world, and this was last week. It was supposed to be all over, and now here he is. You got to wonder what he is thinking and what his strategy and his attorney's strategy is. I think the bottom line here is that Mark Means got it right. The cat is out of the bag in terms of cameras here. And the media attorney had it right, too, is that if you want, people are going to be interested. People have lapped this up. Any nugget, Lori Vallow, Daybell, Chad Daybell, anything in a headline with that, people read it, they're consuming it, especially in Idaho. the accurate information of being able to watch it is a lot better than somebody's interpretation of what happened during a hearing like this. So I think the judge absolutely got it right. And I also think there's no way this thing is going to be tried in Fremont County, Idaho. It's got to get out. It's got to go to Boise. There's just way too much of an issue with this in terms of pretrial publicity.
Chanley, Lori Vallow-Daybell, a no-show today.
Yeah, she waived her appearance, and the judge making sure he put that on the record when he introduced all the parties present. He introduced Chad Daybell with his attorney, John Pryor, and then Mark Means without Lori Vallow, saying, does she not desire to be here, or does she waive her appearance, is what the judge said. And he said no, she waived, didn't want to be there for this hearing, and was not on camera. So we just had Chad. Chad didn't say anything in today's hearing. He just sat there. But mostly the attorneys did all the talking, and we'll see. If she'll probably show up for her preliminary hearing. Next time we'll see her.
Was it because Chad was there?
I think she has to be there.
You think it was because Chad was going to be there? I bet that was
She
it.
didn't want the egg on the face. She was avoiding that, Vinny.
Yep, I'm wondering if things are a little, uncomfortable there. We shall see. All right, we'll have more. We'll show you the hearing just a little bit later on in the program in case you missed it earlier today. All right. Nice to speak with everyone. We'll talk to you during different parts of the program.